Well, before we move on, like to give you an example, right? Because I'm pro-life.
Sure.
So I understand that you want to move on afterwards, and we'll probably get into the idea of a social safety net, healthcare. I understand where you're coming from, but before we get there, right? I'm pro-life. The idea is to change my mind on this, or find where we disagree. Before we move on to another discussion, let's say you're driving home tonight, right? And you see someone in the road, right? And you have plenty. Assuming you're not going to hurt anyone by stopping, pumping the brakes. Do you stop?
If I see someone on the road?
Yeah, to not hit them.
Yes. Typically.
I would too. I think we're probably both decent human beings. Now let's say you're same scenario, you're driving home tonight. You're not entirely sure, but you're pretty sure you see someone in the road. Do you stop?
For the most part, yes. Unless I see that person with, I don't know, like a chainsaw.
No. I'm just saying if you're seeing someone crossing the road, you stop, you know it's a person. And let's say you weren't sure it's a person, but you saw someone crossing the road and you could stop. Would you stop?
Typically.
Because you'd err on the side of not ending a life, right?
Typically.
And so that's the discussion we're having here is, I haven't heard an answer on it, perhaps I've missed it. Where does life begin? Because if we don't know entirely, of course, I would say we both agree you have to err on the side of allowing the possibility that that's a life. So where does life begin? I think it's the most important question. We can't move on from that conversation to what happens after birth if we don't agree where life begins.
I don't know if that's entirely true because that's also very important.
It's important, but not if we're killing a life. That's more important than providing it, let's say, with free health care. If we're killing a life, right? So we have to get to that point. Where does life begin? What constitutes a life?
Okay.
Something I found really fascinating right here. She admits that killing a life, killing another human, is immoral, but then she says we have to be careful about how we define that life because of circumstances. When has circumstances ever determined science?
Yeah. There's a unique human genetic code created at conception. You mentioned a heartbeat. That's not your heartbeat. It's not the father's heartbeat.
Right.
You don't have, when you were when you were carrying your lovely daughter there, you didn't have 4 feet. You didn't have 4 hands. You had a separate life living inside of you. Mm-hmm. My contention is, of course, that scientifically that life we see begins at conception. DNA is created. But you're okay with it anyway. You're the only one who's valuing the rights of one being over another being, the mother over a child, because you're the one who's actually proactively terminating a life, and you're okay with that. I'm simply saying no one has the right to terminate another life, just like you don't have. It's the non-aggression principle. You don't have the right to hurt me, I don't have the right to hurt you. I'm saying that person doesn't have the right to hurt that baby. You're saying it does. So you're saying her rights supersede that of the other life living, growing inside of her. So at what point is that okay or not okay, I guess is where it comes down to. At what point is it okay to violate the non-aggression principle and terminate another life? It doesn't change the essence of what is moral, what is a life. It's like saying, well, listen, I'm against slavery, I think it's bad, but if someone else makes that decision, I have no right to judge their right to choose slavery, because at one point that was considered okay, right? Someone's opinion on an issue doesn't change what it is. It doesn't matter what our opinion is on gravity. It doesn't matter what our opinion is on slavery if it's immoral. Indentured servitude, that's immoral. It doesn't matter what our opinion is if that's a life. And that's why it's the only question I would say that really needs to be answered before we have any other discussion.
So at 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not even observable other than under a microscope at the moment of conception, that's where a woman loses all ability to make any decisions for...
No. You act as though I'm anti-choice. That's not true.
Well, how can you be pro-life and pro-choice?
Sure. I support 4 choices.
Okay.
Contraception, abstinence, motherhood, adoption.
Okay.
The only one I have a problem with is the 5th one, that's murder. Let me answer your question with as much specificity as I can. You said, yes, I believe that once that unique human DNA is created that's separate from the mother, separate from the father, to an entirely new person, I don't support the forcible termination. So that's my view, to be, just so I'm very consistent. So let's look at the fetal development. Where is it okay for you? What point is it okay to kill? What if it's not her body? What if she's aborting another body?
Well, then that would be murder.
It would.
But, it really comes down to at what point is it another body?
Yes, well, you also use the word life. You said it's her body, it's her life. So obviously the big disagreement, I'm pro-life, I couldn't care less what a woman does with her body, right? They can get the god-awful eyebrow tattoo that leaves them a scar for 50 years after that. It's their prerogative. But when it's another body inside of your body, when it's another life, that's a violation, of course, of the non-aggression principle. So that is the only question that really needs to be answered, right? If we're going to find common ground.
Yeah.
So in this case where you've conceded, you don't know where life begins. You don't know if it's a life or not. Shouldn't we err on the side of life and not terminating life?
Yeah, we should. And on that side, I do agree with you. But I believe that, again, I think it's more about personal liberty. And, when it comes down to a woman's body, I think that a woman should have the right to
well, hold on.
whatever they want with their
We're
body.
talking about another body, right? We both agree a woman can do anything. This is the issue. A woman can do anything she wants with her own body.
Yeah.
If a woman wants to amputate herself and a doctor says, I'll do it, and this actually occurs now, these people identify as amputees. This is a common practice. I'm fine with it, right? So we need to frame in the argument fairly and accurately. No one who's pro-life is telling a woman what to do with their body in any other instance outside of when it directly ends the life of another person. So, it's the burden of proof is on you. Why is it not a life?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's not a life, but I also, would say it's an actual human being. Like that. I mean, I'm not really for, actually killing a baby at the stage where, it's an actual baby. But when, like I said, if it's a cell or whatever, I mean,
So when is it okay?
I would say 3 weeks, probably 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. At the point where
3 months.
it actually has like little toes, that's when
Okay.
it's probably
The same.
So would you be pro-choice and I can determine what laws I obey?
That's not the same concept. I'm so sorry.
I know you laugh, but we'll get to it in a second.
Okay, cool.
Because it's not your choice if it's terminating another life. So it does come down to
is.
abortion. Because
It
here's the thing,
absolutely is.
pro-choice would apply to everything else, taxes, driving SUVs, carbon credits,
It's
policy.
it's not.
We're discussing the issue of abortion, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think we would all have differing opinions on choices regarding other issues. In this case, we're just talking about abortion.
Okay.
Are we pro-abortion, pro-right to abort, or pro-life?
Pro right to abort, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. You have
Pro
the
right to abort. Okay.
Okay.
You can't kill a life, period. You can't kill a life if it's white, if it's black. You can't kill a life if it's inside the womb, if it's outside the womb. You can't kill a life if it's straight, if it's gay, if it's cis, if it's trans. You can't just kill someone else. You can't take someone else's life, regardless of how they came to be. That doesn't change the essence of personhood, which is life. Rape doesn't change that. It's a heinous act. But I'm not forcing a woman to do anything. I'm merely not answering a tremendous evil, the act of rape, with an even greater act of evil, the act of murder.